All right. Good morning, guys. We got Wednesday. Thank you. Thank you. You guys recognize this is all this? It's all the same verse, but it's from a bunch of different translations. It says it is not self-seeking, or it says it does not demand its own way, or it says it does not insist on getting its own way, or it is not selfish, or she never just thinks of herself. They all say different things, right? This, we're going to change this a little bit to make it more in context so we can speed things up. Paul here, what we're going to do is we're going to take away the it is or it does, and we're going to replace it with, also this one just doesn't make sense. Here, this translation. Translators render things differently. And we can replace that with we must or we should. Like, we should not be self-seeking. We should not demand our own way. We should not insist on getting our own way. We should not be selfish. That's what it's saying. And I'm not taking that out of context. If you don't believe me, go to 1 Corinthians 13 and read, you can read the whole thing. You'll see in context what happens is the Corinthians, the church in Corinth, they're messing up. And Paul writes them this letter, and he says, you guys are screwing up, and he gives them a list of attributes, a list of ways to act, things that they're supposed to do. So that's where this is coming from. It's phrased weird, but he's telling them, and this is just one of the many. But for some reason, I want to just focus on this today, because it's not something I've heard like preachers talk about too much. Like, it's not a verse that I ever see pulled out and like focused on. So today we're just going to be taking a quick look at this idea here. We should not be self-seeking. We should not demand our own way. We should not insist on getting our own way. We should not be selfish. So out of all the hundreds and hundreds of translations that there are in the probably tens of thousands of languages, the Bible, it'll say it in so many different ways. If you even just go on Bible Hub and you read it, it'll be translated a billion different ways. They'll render it to where word order is changed and stuff, just so it makes more sense to us. But to really understand it, I don't speak Koine Greek, which is what it was written in. But thanks to the internet, because it's a dead language, but thanks to the internet, we can study it. So real quick, I just want to throw on here all of these translations, all of the hundreds and hundreds of translations of different ways you could read it. It all comes from one source, mainly just one source in Greek. It's one little saying in Greek for this. We're just going to write that down real quick. I'm not going to use the Greek letters because that doesn't accomplish anything right now. And I'm going to misspell it. All right. Is there an asterisk above that? Yep, there is, I believe. And then, and it's quiet in here.
Yep.
Okay, this is what it actually says in the Greek. So all the hundreds of translations in every language comes from this. It's translated from this, and then they render it to make it make more sense in whatever language, whatever culture. Okay, you get that? So we're just going to quickly define it here. This word literally means not. I hear that thing running out there. I'm glad it's working.
Amen.
This next word means, let me get a better definition for it. In classical and Koine Greek, it can mean to seek, to strive for, to desire. You get the idea, right? If you're seeking after something, you're striving after something, you're desiring something, you're pursuing something. And then that's just, I guess together it would be, it's but we use that. Together, these just mean its own interests, Okay, almost done with this part, but it's good to see the background. Its own interests or desires,
So you're
the things that it wants. And that excludes what anybody else would want. Okay, so we get a final rendering of this. If we really want to look at it, it's saying, no matter what the Bible translation you have says, what it's really saying in the original Greek is it's telling us to not seek or strive for or to pursue our own interests or our own desires. Okay, now I know that was probably a boring little study there on the Greek, but it matters that we understand all of this in context. So if we were to take that definition that we just had here, that we are not supposed to pursue our own interests, or we're not supposed to be self-seeking, or we're not supposed to demand our own way, or we're not supposed to insist or push to get our own way, what would be the opposite of that? Somebody just throw out an answer. What's the opposite? What's the opposite of what we're talking about here?
upset that
Self-centered? Yeah, that's good.
opposite. They was to
Give to others.
give to others and make other people more important than yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
To love.
Yeah, exactly. So we got, and we're back. So we got, like self-centeredness, being entitled. Entitlement is when I deserve more than these other people. It's this idea, it's this posture of walking in, I deserve more, I get my own way, just demanding to get your own way, I think would probably be the best way to sum it down. When you're talking about demanding to get your own way, have you guys ever seen, like in a movie, have you been in a store where there's been a little kid screaming and throwing a massive tantrum? I've seen it, and it happens everywhere in the world. I can tell you, the kid is screaming. Have you ever seen this? There's the parents, or one of the parents, and the kid is just screaming, throwing a whole temper tantrum because the parent did not buy something the child wanted. The child wanted something, kid flips out and puts on a whole show, and those poor parents are stuck there with this kid. You can tell maybe they didn't discipline the kid when the kid was younger. I don't know. Michael's calling someone. There we go. I have it. So this, I hope there's not something wrong with that thing. Okay. This idea, so it's okay because it's a kid, right? You can excuse it because you're in a store, you see this kid throwing this tantrum, so you can excuse it. But as adults, we're not supposed to throw temper tantrums, right? No temper tantrums. We still do, but we're not supposed to. We do it in like different ways if we don't get our own way. Like I had some roommates that would play games and on their controller, and you could hear them slam their controller on the table if they lost at whatever they were playing. We can either do that, or we can get even deeper into like manipulation. So let's say like you're in a marriage, right? It doesn't just happen within marriages, but that's one good example. If you don't get something that you want, maybe it's like praise, or like a thank you, or like good job for something that you did. And you start to, both the husband and the wife both do this in relationships very often. And so you just start to act different. You didn't get what you wanted, so you start to act just a little bit different towards that person to try to like show them that to get what you wanted out of it. You know what I'm talking about here? And it can get deeper, much worse than that, where people have their manipulative claws dug into somebody. In the States, sometimes you'll see a husband who, yes, dear, of course, dear, because it happens because sometimes even the wife, although it oftentimes happens the other way, sometimes even you see a wife that has this dominant control over this husband, this poor guy. So that's really what we're talking about here, is just the opposite of demanding to get your own way. The phrase, to not demand to get its own way, it's obviously talking about prioritizing others' needs over our own desires. We have a culture that talks about we've heard the term like be true to yourself and all that. But the Bible's calling Christians to be more like Christ, to a higher standard, to put others first. And Jesus in Matthew, sorry, I'm a little tired today. In Matthew 20:28, Jesus is teaching people. And he said, "For even the Son of God came not to be served, but to serve others." Even Jesus came here not to be served, which he could have been, but to serve others. So Christians are supposed to reflect, obviously, that's what we talk about like daily up here. We're talking about attribute, how we can change our lives, how we can be more like God. So we're supposed to become more Christ-like as time goes on. We're supposed to reflect him. We're actually called his ambassadors. We're ambassadors of Christ here if we're Christians, which means when people look at us, they're looking at somebody that represents the kingdom of heaven, represents Christ on earth. So the way we act and the way we talk, all this is really important because somebody looks at you, somebody from northern India, you can tell this person's from northern India because of the things that they're wearing, the way they're speaking, whatever it is. If you're an ambassador of a certain place, you reflect the nature of that place. So this is one of the big rules that we don't really talk about too much. In Romans 12:10, it says, "Be devoted to one another. Honor one another above yourselves. Honor one another above yourselves." Trying to outdo each other in that. So the Bible also says that we're supposed to try to, in a competition way, try to outdo each other in honoring each other above ourselves. It's such an important topic. I just got a couple scriptures left. Let's see. In Romans 15:1-3, it says, "For even Christ did not please himself, and we who are strong must be considerate of those who are sensitive about things. We must not just please ourselves." Thank you. It's okay. We can be in the darkness and everybody can sleep as I'm talking. Let my voice lull you to sleep for the next 2 seconds. Then we have Philippians 2, which is 3-4, and it says, it's telling us really to consider others more important than ourselves. So it's saying, if I can read it, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition, rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking for your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others." This can even happen in the way that if we help. So look at your motive, when you're helping somebody or if you're forgiving somebody publicly. Are you doing it in the right motive even? What I mean is, so Sas and I met at a church. And oftentimes when you are part of the core, helpers of the church, you're there when nobody else is there. And you are moving chairs, you're moving tables, people are cleaning, you're setting stuff back up. That was nice. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that when I was there, and I had a crush on Sas, I would carry more chairs than I had to. When holding the speaker and putting it on the stand, these huge speakers, I would pretend that my finger didn't just get crushed in between the speaker and the piece of metal because I wanted to look cool and look good. So it was kind of out of selfish. And you know what I'm talking about? You're carrying the table and the chair at the same time, which you wouldn't normally do, but you try to keep your back straight. And you look good, and meanwhile, I ate this super hot chicken, made my eyes water. It was painful, but I sat there and pretended like this because I didn't want to look weak. And there was tears coming out of my eyes. I was engaging in the conversation. And in the back of your mind, your body's just going, "Ow!" But you're trying to look cool because, don't look like an idiot in front of this girl. So that's not that bad, but it can get much worse than that if we don't watch our motives. So it's not about doing certain things. It's not about the action itself. It's addressing the posture, the place, the intent where it's coming from, the motive behind it. Because then we don't have to worry about what we're doing. If we are regarding other people above ourselves, we don't have to worry that we're going to be selfish and demand your own way or manipulate to get your own way. A lot of times people will tell you things, I've noticed in my life, that are I'm telling you this and I'm doing this for your own good. But really, it's because they think they know what's best for you, but it's really what they want, and it's an excuse. Have you ever heard that? Like my parents would, when you're a kid, it's okay, but if someone's like following God in something, I've seen people say, that's not God's will for your life. It can't be because of this. And it's not right to do that because that's their own interests. It doesn't mean what you feel that God has put on your heart for the other person's best in their life. It's for their own interests. You're considering their interests above your own. So you're not pushing, we're not manipulating, but we're having this posture of considering people to be important. All right? Because a lot of times we get in this ego thing and I'm the only one that's right. You know, it always leads to an ugly place. It always leads to a bad place. So that's really all I got. I think this is one of the most important things, and I don't know why people don't talk about this topic more. It's one of the most important things that someone can possess, because imagine a world where people put other people's desires first. Imagine that world. Like, if everybody did that, relationships would always thrive. Friendships would always grow. Workplaces would always thrive. If every single person was doing this, the world would be like a utopia. And this passage gets passed over, but really this covers it pretty much. So it is important. If we can start to put this into our own lives, we're not going to get punished by God for doing it. If we are generous, the Bible says God's going to give back to us and help us. So it's a deep topic, but I think it's something worth thinking about, of putting people above yourself and honoring people, even if you don't feel like it and you don't want to. But you know what? They have just as much importance in God's eyes as He looks at me. I'm just as important as they are. Everybody. So I'm not just going to push to have my own way. Does that make sense? What I said? Wrote a lot of random stuff? Okay. I think it's just something important for us to look at because people don't really look at it usually. So I'll pray here. Father, thank you.